Nader Habibi is a professor in Middle East economics at Brandeis University. He's joining us from Boston. Professor, these protests are growing. Despite warnings from authorities of the death penalty, dozens of people have been killed already. Do you feel like this is straying into dangerous territory?
Yes, hello. It is, and I think the change in the tone of the government, the very confrontational speech by Ayatollah Khamenei reflects the fact that the government might also be more confrontational and use violence against the protesters in the coming days.
What do you make then, because you've mentioned it, of the Ayatollah's claims in that speech of influence from the United States?
The fact that he claims that everyone who participates in protests is an agent or a provocateur that's inspired by US or Israel is not correct. Many of the protesters, most of them have grievances against the government for economic reasons, for lack of social and cultural freedoms, but primarily because the economic conditions have become very severe in the past few weeks.
So then what do you think the protesters' response then, I guess, is what I'm asking, will be to those claims? They know that they feel they're not being influenced by the US, but they do have these complaints and they're deep-seated problems. The state of the economy is not easily resolved.
Yes, I think the behavior of protesters in the past 2 or 3 days, especially last night, shows that a large group of people in Iran's population are now inspired to participate, and these protests are likely to continue. And two factors have contributed to this energization, the fact that there is momentum now. One of them is that apparently one of the leaders of the opposition, the Reza Pahlavi, has become prominent among the protesters, and they keep chanting his name and chanting the name of the Pahlavi regime, which means that now there is appearance of people talking about an alternative rather than just criticizing or attacking the current regime. And the second factor is that the President of the United States has directly warned the government against using violence. That sort of gave people some confidence to come to the streets last night. But we have heard that some killings have taken place last night, and the news is now coming out, which might sort of affect the people's calculation. But so far, they have been energized by these two factors.
Yeah, you've got to think that a warning of a death penalty and news of spreading, accumulating deaths will concern many of these protesters, but they also feel like they have a legitimate claim. And I want to ask you, you mentioned just then Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, and his involvement. Does it threaten the stability of the current regime in any meaningful way?
Well, it all depends on how these demonstrations continue and evolve in the coming days. I think he has had a positive impact on demonstrators. There is no doubt about that. Predicting how things might evolve in the coming days is very difficult. The regime, the Iranian government, seems committed to confront the protesters, and the protesters seem so far to be committed to coming to the streets. But a factor that might affect the outcome and the impact of this is whether the United States might carry out any kind of intervention to deter violence against protesters.
Just quickly before we go, only 2 weeks ago, we were hearing from authorities that they wanted to talk to protesters. The situation has markedly changed. It's swung all the way around to threats of the death penalty. Are you surprised at this reaction, that it has gone so far from one side to the other?
I am. I thought that there was a conciliatory tone earlier, as you mentioned, but now it seems like, despite all the risks, the government feels that they have no alternative because the masses are very large, the protests, and the demands are now political. Before these recent few days, the government was claiming that these are all economic demands, and they even tried to offer some kind of economic concessions. But we see that the protests have morphed into political demands for substantial political change.
Professor Nader Habibi, thank you very much for joining us on Al Jazeera.
Thank you.